My first year of teaching was as a one-roomer. I didn't have anything. I didn't have any books. I didn't have any papers. I didn't have anything. And this is all in my book, Romances with Schools.
Yes.
And of course, Romances with Schools goes all the way up till now.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Your nephew, Robert Goodlad, notes that a lot of your ideas, especially in your book, Romances with Schools, are based on your own experiences teaching grade school kids in a non-standardized, non-graded way. What is your concept of non-grading?
Non-graded?
Yes.
I had 32 children, I think. And by non-grading, it was that wherever they were able to move along in school, that they didn't have to be in a grade. For example, it turned out that I had twins in the 6th grade, very bright, very bright. I had in the 7th and 8th grades schools that the previous teachers had flunked. Mm-hmm. So I was 19. I had a boy 18. I had 17. I had 16. I had 15. I went all the way down, up and down. I had been taught in the normal school that what you did in reading in the beginning, and then what you did for this and what you did for that, and it was all a continuum of what you got at the grade level, and if you didn't, you flunked.
Okay.
So I inherited the school whereby it was all a lot of build up at the end. I also had Ernie in the 1st grade who had been there for 7 years. They'd never moved him. He groaned and moaned a little bit, quite a bit each day. He was still in the same desk he had been in the 1st grade. His bony knees stuck out into the hallway. Fortunately, he wasn't a very big child, and he couldn't read. He had been left, all of the children he had started with were on the other side of the room. And so the youngsters were, here was the 1st and 2nd grade, here was the 3rd and 4th. I think I may have missed the 5th, 4th, or 5th, somewhere in there. And so I just simply moved Ernie all the way over to the children he had started with, because I knew that he wasn't learning anything in any case. And it just happened that when I came home, I used to come home I could get home by train every weekend. What I discovered was that when I was working with the children, and here we were talking with one another, these 2 girls, they were twins in the 6th grade, were entering into it. And they were better little scholars than the other ones were, except for 2 girls. And then, of course, I had the 18-year-old who had been flunked and flunked. I came home in October one weekend, angry with what I was doing. And I think I kicked the kitchen door, and I put a bruise in it and a bruise in me, and I said, I cannot do this anymore. So when I got back to the school, I said to the fellow who took care of the things physically, he would come every morning and check the school. And in the winter, he'd light up this big stove right in the middle of the school. And then, of course, the children would all come in wet. They also wore wool. And if you've ever smelled wool of that kind, the classroom didn't smell very nice. And they'd group around the fireplace. I said, I want you to build a cradle here about 8 or 10 inches long. I'd forgotten, maybe bigger than that runs all down that road there. The height of most children, because you won't be able to create something that goes up and down that most children will be able to take. And then I want you to fill it full of sand. And I said, I want that thing waterproof, so we could put as much water in it to make a lake if need be, if we wanted to make a lake. Mm-hmm. It happened right at that time that I was teaching the province of British Columbia. Therefore, we had the great freezer coming down. So we set forward to do a map of the entire province in this with the water, the river, the mountains, and everything. Guess where Ernie was?
Right, engaged.
Ernie was there. Ernie could do that. And Ernie was smiling, having a great time. His friends were pleased to have him. Right within another month or less, I lost him, because for a long time the other parents had been trying to get rid of him. And so they did. And I don't know what happened to him. But anyway, there were just so many things. For example, let's say we come to Christmas and we're going to do Scrooge, and we're going to do that book. So when I take out a book for us to read, everybody's listening. And then I would look, if I'm over here, I'd be looking, the kids weren't doing grade 2 or grade 3, they were listening to what was going on over there. And later in life, I got a few of those children, and it was that they still remembered this whole experience of being so different from school. Why I did this, I do not know. I do not know. I just knew that what I was getting, what I had been taught by the principal of the normal school, who was a very nice man, but what he was teaching was reading, writing, and arithmetic.
Sure. So it sounds like you became a teacher. You were inspired by another teacher to become a teacher, and then Ernie inspired you to become a better teacher. Is that right?
I guess so. I knew I had the twins. First of all, I had one Molly. I had Molly, who had not flunked a grade. She was in grade 8. She would be graduating at the end of the year. And Molly was going to be a nurse. She liked children and working with children. Both of my twins were going to be teachers. Oh, by the way, just a little side thing. My salary for the year was $750.
Oh, goodness.
And out of that $750, I had to save enough money to go to Victoria for, I think it was about 5 weeks, in order to get one of the summer sessions that would go to before I can get my teaching license. I never did do the second one because the war had broken out, and so they waived it. And then from there, it was another great break. There was we only had the elementary school where the elementary school was when I left my one-room school. And I was in a little school of about 6 rooms, I guess. I had the kind of part of the 6 and 7, I guess. The principal of the school had grade 8. I got a break again because a junior high school had been built close to us. They were 1 room short. And interestingly enough, the more advanced part of schooling always gets the best deal. And the deal was that somebody had to get out of the elementary school in order to provide a room for the junior high. The only place they had there was a small church that had been closed, but it was still in good shape, and they were fixing it up into a school. So they thought it best for a man to go to this church was cut off from everything else.
Oh, sure.
So I got another break.
Sure.
I got another 1-room this
School.
And this was grade 5, I think, and it was wonderful. And so parents had never in the school gone to see their children. And so after a while, the children said, "Is it okay if my mother comes?" And I said, "Yes, but I will tell you if she does, I want her simply to pay attention, and I don't want her walking around among all the children if she comes, but yes, she can come. And then I said, well, I could only handle 1 or 2 a day if they want to do that. Well, then the other thing that occurred, which was great fun, was that I found a young lady cheating. And when I talked with her, she cried, she just broke out crying. And she said, I wanted to please you. And I said, well, that doesn't please me. But I said, I think that you're perfectly capable of keeping me happy. And so anyway, I don't know what it was we did, but at that point, by not punishing her or anything of the sort, she became, she really got to work, really became a very good pupil. Back in those days, I'm not talking about something that was that wonderful for me. It was different now, and right now what I'm mostly working on, and that is, there are 3 components of schooling. There's the teacher-pupil relationship, that's one. Number 2, it's the family and the school. Number 3, it's the zeitgeist of the school. Do you know what we're doing right now? We're only doing one. We are dealing with about 30% of the potential of a school, because we have reduced school to be the relationship between the teacher and the child, and if that doesn't work, you fire the teacher and whatnot. When we as professors go out and work with the schools and then do our research out of that, maybe we'll begin to pay some attention to Dewey, who said in a very powerful statement that educational research must rise out of practice, and then must go back to practice. What have we done? We have thought we write a paper. How many teachers read our papers? No, we don't. That isn't what Dewey was saying at all. What Dewey was saying, go back, really go back into the school and the classroom.
Your niece, Jane Tasso, recalls that you have never forgotten your humble beginnings and bring what you have learned into your present-day teachings. Tell us about your wife, Lynn.
I had a friend, and I was in Bisco, and I would come home on weekends because I had a little apartment in the school building of that so-called school. But as a school, it was everything. The kids did field work, they did an athletic program, they did all kinds of things. And then one day, and he and I, you may be aware, I'm an ancient mariner. I'm well, you see, out there and whatnot. And he realized that I liked fishing, and so we got to know one another by a couple of times going river fishing. And one day he said, "Do you have a girlfriend?" And I said, "Yes, I do." That's kind of funny, because in the summer, when I was the only time I have ever been in a university until I went to University of Chicago. But in the summer, we'd take courses at the University of British Columbia. In the summertime, we were just picking up points. In one of these classes, I noticed this rather beautiful blonde, and she had to pick up classes during the summer to keep pace going. And I saw this several days going, and then finally had the courage to express my appreciation, and might we get together? I don't know how it was, and she smiled and said yes, and lo and behold, we chose really one of the nicest places up top of the major hotel in Vancouver, and we had a very pleasant evening, and we switched, and not long after that, he took to the blonde and I took to his.
Oh, you're kidding.
No, but I took to Lynn, and her real name is Eveline. The boat is called Evelina.
Oh.
Her brother was unable to pronounce her name of Eveline, and she got Lynn. And that was it until I came to the States, and nobody knew what Lynn was, so they called her Lynn. Oh, she asked me something about what am I going to do in the summer, and I said, well, I know that I'm going to, and I named the place up on the British Columbia coast where an uncle of mine had a cottage. And I said, I'm going to be there some during the summer. And she said, what? I think she said, when is that going to be? And I told her. She said, the interesting thing, I have a friend not far away from there. This was Gibson's Landing up the coast. And I thought, that's interesting. Maybe we can get together. And so there's a real story behind that one, because my uncle had there was a taxi, one taxi in this community where you could get to the boat to get you back to Vancouver. He had a rowboat that rented there, but he used me to row the boat to his house. Mm-hmm. Well, it was a heavy boat, and we had it pulled up on the beach, and we did some fishing, except that I would get up at 6 o'clock in the morning to go fishing, and he wouldn't show, so I'd go by myself. And this particular evening, I told him, I'm going to go for dinner down the way, and I said, I've been told that but at night, it was a nasty time. It was, there was real hailstorms and whatnot. And I said, they told me that there's a place going out there where I can stay overnight. And this was where Lynn was with a friend, a lady that invited her. And so on this occasion, I was leaving just to say she was coming, and I knew that. And so my uncle said, we've got to go and catch that ferry. Now this is dirty. Because this heavy boat, and it was quite rough. It was really quite rough out there, and I told him that. I said, it's pretty rough. Well, the waves were coming in at it, and he didn't notice that when he pushed, I pulled. Wow. So I said, we're never going to get out of here, but let's pull this thing out. And so we pulled the boat up, and I said, I'll see you in the morning. So I went, and they had dinner with them, etc. Well, the interesting thing, and most of all of that, was that Frank Sinatra had just come. The girls were just climbing over him as you know. Maybe you don't. He was just attracting the women from all over the place, and they were very young. He was too. And he had a song that just was going all over the country. All or nothing at all. You ever hear that song? Mm-mm. All or nothing at all. That was the one that really brought him into prominence, and it's about that time that one of the bigger orchestras of all of that, was able to get him over. That morning, I got a knock on the door, and Lynn came in carrying a little radio, and the song is All or Nothing at All. Well, that's the way it was. It was all or nothing at all. And we started going together in Vancouver afterward, and then decided this was a good forever thing, and we waited then about a year and a half and got married.